All right, everyone, welcome to Chat from the Deep, our weekly live stream post-session discussion. We talk about what just happened during D&D. This is the Chat for session 37. So if you've not watched that session yet, please do that, because it was a crazy big
That
session,
was a crazy one.
and there will be spoilers. I'm your DM, Eric, and joining me we have Gottwald's player Chris,
Hello.
Max player Raymond. Welcome to the big boss fight that I had. There's a lot to talk about here.
I sure was a boss fight.
It sure was a boss fight. I could talk about a lot of what the original content was here, the things I changed, and then various expectations. But I guess I'll just love to hear your overall thoughts on what was probably the most challenging fight we've had since the very, very early taking over of the pirate ship, which spawned this very infamous
Like to remind the DM that we are level 2.
soundbite on that one.
Yeah.
I think this was certainly the most challenging thing you guys have been through so far.
I mean, I don't know. At one point, I'll be honest with you. At one point, I was doubting what you were doing. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing? Because it felt so razor thin.
Yeah.
It really felt like 2 bad rolls and we were TPKing at a couple points.
I mean,
I was like, this is we're really riding the line here. This is wild. So it was exciting for that reason. It was very exciting.
The best thing I can do is make some on-the-fly adjustments here and there and pull some punches and not do things I would have done. But I honestly try not to do too much of that. Most of it was probably related to the Kraken at the end. But even then, I kind of like the way you guys handled everything. But a big part of my notes, and not to jump all the way ahead, was to say a lot of how the Kraken thing goes depends on how this fight goes.
Fight's going. Yeah.
And literally that'll be a big balancing fight. If you guys end up kicking the Mind Flayer's ass for whatever reason, you're making all the saves, nothing's happening, he just gets pummeled down, then that Kraken comes in guns blazing and becomes the actual boss fight.
Right.
And what happened is this the opposite of effect. I was like, holy shit, this fight ended up being so grueling and so brutal for the party that this Kraken is almost going to be like a cinematic cutscene.
Yeah.
Where the party tries to get out under.
We also we had no resources, no health left. We had no interest in staying around to fight it anyway. So
and another thing I had in my notes was like, if they end up, depending how the fight goes, I may give them that 5-minute short rest before the Kraken shows up, so we can do a full-on boss fight.
Okay.
But I think because that fight was so long and felt like an appropriate boss fight, once we got to like 11:30, I was like, all right, I'm scratching those plans. At this point, they're not going to do a whole short rest in a second fight. We're just going to have this be like this big scary thing that's coming, and I'm going to have it. And I have an actual token. It's got an actual stat block. It's not just a fake like, hey, off the screen, you guys have to get out. But I'm glad that you picked up pretty quick. They're like, oh no, this is a situation we have to get out of here, which is not something that typically happens for a D&D party, I find.
Right. It is rare, yes. If 3 of us hadn't gone down, we probably wouldn't have tried it, or fleed, but yeah.
And thank goodness for I guess that's the story that Dice told, was you being dominated for so long. I didn't expect you being so brutally effective at beating up the party. I didn't expect.
Yeah,
but I also didn't expect my Chuuls to be so hilariously ineffective either. They're pretty strong creatures.
Yeah,
they've got 90 hit points apiece or whatever it is. 80. What do they have? Yeah, about 100 actually. 100 hit points apiece. They have a +6 to hit. They can grapple when they hit. If they do grapple, they can do their like paralyzing bite thing. Like they're all kinds of nasty. And they just were so hilariously ineffective. Like
they became like set dressing. It was so weird. They just became just like, things are happening in the background.
So that kind of helped balance it out in a weird way. Like because it was everything else was being so brutally effective. Druskus is not a normal Mind Flayer.
I was going to ask that. Like, is it just a Mind Flayer stat block? Or
no, his stat block is a unique stat block from Call from the Deep. The like lieutenants or whatever of the enemy forces all have these cool kind of custom made stat blocks, custom artwork and all that. And then something I'm starting to do, and we talked about this in the crafting stream, is just do away with legendary actions and just do the layer action stuff, because that's so much easier for me to handle as a DM with these big boss fights. There's all these things happening. If I can put on I guess the other thing I could do is just put him as layer actions at different intervals and have it be a little better. But I'm glad I didn't do that, because him having that one extra thing was enough to where he had that one extra effect. And all his effects were pretty cool. I kind of divided up his actions basically into those like layer actions. and other things he could do on top of it. So I mean, at one point it was he almost didn't like he did like vicious mockery as an action or something. I was like, I've already got Gottwald controlled. Like, I guess what I should have done was take complete control of you. I didn't think about that and just had you attack again a full round. But gosh, that would have been just even more brutal after that.
Is that how that works though? Like, could you use your whole turn
I think so.
to just become the other person?
So you're normally using your action to do anything, but then he uses his whole action just to assume control of you and use your stuff.
Okay.
Which I didn't think about doing, but yeah, and notice I didn't use the Mind Blast until the very end, because I know Mind Blast is a very pain in the ass ability, which is big AoE stun effect. Yeah,
stun everybody.
But at that point he had like 20 hit points left, and he's like, fuck it, I'm doing the Mind Blast. And then 2 people made the save. I was like, holy shit.
Yep.
So that was a big turning point. But then the other turning point was the Thrall Assassin, who was a slightly modified Bandit Captain stat block, I think I used.
Okay.
With sneak attack, got the crit on you with the sneak attack, so that's what did 30 some damage and downed you, which that was the big turning point in the party. At that point, Mac had gone down, but you going down was a huge shock and a nasty blow for the party.
What did you do? 33 damage with that one hit? I think
which is that one little assassinate. Yeah. So that was the one minion that was his one like moment to shine of all the different minions the Mind Flayer had.
Yeah, which he hadn't done much up until that one crit.
He was missing attacks left and right, and that one crit took you down with so much damage.
Which is funny because multiple times during this fight, I thought to myself, like, I've got all these abilities or defensive abilities, but I have to be conscious and like in control of my own bodily functions to use them.
Yeah.
And I was always stunned or mind controlled, and I could not defend at all.
And of course, huge shout out to Lumpy Morgan for doing the whole reaction thing. That really changed the dynamic of the fight.
That did, yes.
And left Gottwald dominated for a lot longer. I will say, I don't know what would have happened, because on the other hand, I had a whole ton of spells I could unleash. He had fear, he had confusion, he had a lot of concentration-based fuck-up spells that he would do that he didn't do for basically 2 or 3 rounds because you were dominated.
Right.
But obviously you being dominated takes you out from pummeling enemies and has you attacking.
You minus a quarter of the team's power, and then, it gets you an attack enemy. Yeah.
It's a very nasty move, For how quickly Savra got out of the pit and the Chuuls didn't matter, I was thinking like, oh man, thank goodness Gottwald's still dominated, so it really feels like a fight. But then as we got further, I was like, holy shit, it's really feeling like a fight. And then you like pummeling Mac down, and then it's like, oh damn, okay, we're getting serious now.
Which I didn't actually down. Who downed my Mac? What was the actual thing that put him down?
Do you remember?
I think it was his Psychic Blast.
Oh,
he did one of his layer action things. Yeah,
right. The area.
So technically, the Mind Flayer did down you.
Yeah.
The assassin downed Gottwald, and I believe Gottwald actually inadvertently downed Savra whenever you punched, and he did his psychic deflection.
And he did his thing. Yeah. His deflection thing.
So he had a really fun bossy stat block that had bonus
actions, I feel like
reactions, layer actions, and like all these fucking things he could do.
Yep. As far as like this feeling like a really interesting fight, it all really came down to that enemy's abilities.
Yeah,
more than
a lot
anything
of
else.
Fun action economy.
Because more than the environment, more than the like monsters or whatever, it was like the abilities he was pulling out of his ass to like control us and deflect us, and psychic attacks.
Fun fact, I did give him and the Kraken legendary resistance, and I did not use either of them because of the balancing of the fight.
Oh, yeah.
Especially towards the end with Savra doing some pretty good, like, debilitating stuff to the Kraken to keep it at bay. And at that point, I'm freaking out, because if this Kraken really starts attacking people, it's going to be fucking bad news city.
Right.
So for those of you that saw, well, Eric, you gave the Kraken legendary resistance, why didn't you use it? Like, I didn't forget. I specifically did not trigger its legendary resistance, because, that was going to be nasty.
Right.
But yeah, I think it felt really good from a boss battle standpoint. And this is the thing I had to change, was to put the Mind Flayer here instead of the Aboleth is the big bad who's actually controlling. There's an Aboleth who's the boss who is controlling the Kraken here. The Kraken is part of the module. I used that part.
Oh, okay.
The Juvenile Kraken. But there's an Aboleth as the villain. And obviously I'm using the Aboleth from Call from the Deep as an ally who sent you here to take out the Mind Flayer. So I'd replace it with the Mind Flayer. The Chuuls are here. I reduced the number of Chuuls to 2. So I kept them, and then I added the Assassin because first of all, I just wanted a minion in the room with the poor boss. But then I also added the fact that like you guys know he's been doing this to people, basically creating serial killers through like ritualized enthrallments, and he happens to have his like latest one here, so that was an excuse to have a minion here. So he was basically the pirate captain, or the bandit captain stat block, but he had like a sneak attack like the spy does or something.
Right. Okay.
So the triple attack thing.
Was there any? Because we talked about it for a half second and then forgot about it. Was there any like narrative, like saving of this dude, or was it always gonna end this way?
Okay. Yeah, if you manage to knock him out and not kill him, but just knock him out, and like whenever you attack somebody and reduce him to 0 hit points, you can just make him unconscious. Yeah, he was just a normal guy who was enthralled. And I would have treated it like the first guy who was the serial killer. So like at 24 hours, he's like catatonic, and at the next 24 hours, he starts to find himself. Now the problem is the other guy was kind of fucked up still for a minute, so it'd be like this long process of trying to like build his mind back, and I kind of picture like a Winter Soldier situation where like this was a long ritualized like I don't know, Manchurian Candidate, Winter Soldier thing.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not able to just knock him out of it.
Right. Exactly. But then you guys, the fact that the fight, it would balance it very well, and you guys kept mentioning the fact, like, well, gosh, now we took out, like, we know he's not concentrating on, but we took out the Mind Flayer. Now is this guy like still? And I was like, yeah, I will give that to you because, and I had something in my notes about that where like, hey, maybe if you guys destroy the brain thing that's there, maybe it paralyzes him or does something that can take that guy out.
I was going to ask about that too. We didn't, because we didn't interact with it at all.
Yeah.
That like brain pool thing. What was that?
It was half set dressing and half like kind of explaining what the Mind Flayer was doing, which was maybe creating this like slurry to feed the Kraken, like and then maybe to give to people and stuff, to where it like kind of helps keep them under his control.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a thing. I picture Ray's also somebody who does this, like, hey, you want to like shoot that thing or do damage to that, and then maybe that would end up actually paralyzing the assassin guy as a result.
Gotcha.
But or you could have reduced him to 0 hit points or something. But yeah, there was technically saving him, but it would have been a challenge to do so, and it was certainly not required. And the hilarious cinematic part of it is just having him get killed by one of the other minions was another way to hilariously rebalance that fight, I guess.
We feel less guilty about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think it was the longest PvP because the Frey Wendigo fight was definitely longer, I think.
That was like a whole session.
That was like over a session of having a monstrous Frey attack the party. But this was close. This was definitely close. And guess what? Those fights are the most memorable, grueling fights for the party. If you can turn one person against the others, like, it is nasty.
Because not only are you giving them a strong bad guy, because PCs are always just stronger than everybody else, you're also minusing a solid percentage of the team's power.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Well, and also, like, we can't go all out necessarily, because
if
down you, well, then it's gonna cost
now we still don't have a teammate, and we gotta fight by ourselves.
It's funny that does mention the fact that every time he takes damage, he can make the save, but you mentioned your save was so bad that, like,
it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
I literally would have had to roll a 16 or higher.
Ability Edmund had in the last campaign with the Flash of Genius. Ray, remember where you were like giving everybody like a fucking 5 or 6 on their saves or something?
Yeah.
That was such a clutch move.
That was good, yep.
In the original adventure, you fight the Aboleth, obviously, in the watery stairs areas where it pops up. And it's a big boss fight. But then you just go into the water and you emerge and you like see in the distance some object or something, and you're supposed to know like, oh, I guess that's where the Kraken is being held. So you're given a chance to kind of rest up and then go to this whole other area, which is about the size of this area, that's all underwater. And you go there, and it turns out there's 2 Aboleth cops that were hunting the other Aboleth.
What?
I mean, I'm making a joke, but like literally, they're like they were coming to like, I don't know, kill or arrest the other Aboleth for taking a Kraken and
Aboleth crimes.
So there's a weird bit where you can either fight them or kind of reason with them maybe to get past them, and then you go fight the juvenile Kraken in an underwater layer. But the original adventure is also designed for 11th level. So I looked at that and said, you know what? I don't even think we need that map. I will either have the Kraken attack them on this map, or I can have them go down into the water to fight the Kraken in just some generic watery area or something.
Yeah.
And then I realized going into this week's session that like I want to end it here, so I'm probably not going to have them go to that other area, and we'll just trigger the Kraken fight here. But I was still
Right.
at some, like I said, if you guys had fought that Mind Flayer battle really quickly, I could even have him do his dying cutscene. You hear the screams, and I would still probably let you guys get a quick short rest if I felt like, okay, this is going to be a legit boss fight with the Juvenile
Yeah.
Kraken. Let's let everybody get that quick short rest, heal up, and then boom, the real boss fight begins. That was like, I did not know what was going to happen this session, and it was totally on the cards whether you were going to, it's a legit stat block, whether you're going to actually fight this creature straight up as the real boss fight or have it be some kind of just cinematic tool, basically.
Right.
So it was always a possibility that you could actually fight this thing, and it had a lot of cool moves, including just firing lightning bolts at people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I still couldn't take down Reese. He is so hard to kill.
I,
We talked about this.
you'd have to like target him specifically with whatever two saves he's least good at.
Yeah.
You're never going to take him down with physical attacks.
No.
It's just
It's got to
his
be
AC and his concentration are just too damn good. He's
Yeah.
gonna spell his way out of it. He's gonna knock people back when they get too close.
I still got him down to 20 hit point, which is pretty
Yeah,
low. Like everybody,
you
I didn't quite get the hat trick of getting all four, but yeah. And really, it's his intelligence is only a +1. So fighting these psychic guys, he was taking some damage from all those like psychic burst things I was doing. That was doing the work.
Yes. That's how you'd have to do it. It's all like save based.
Because his
Damage.
con, wisdom, and charisma are all really good saves. He must have taken. Did
Yeah.
he take resilient or something? He did take resilient.
Probably he
Motherfucker.
loves those states.
He loves getting that. He just does not like going down. He just takes all the tankiest. Even when he's a warlock, he's such a tanky motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I enjoyed this boss fight. Even though I didn't get to really play with the Kraken, I thought the boss fight did the Mind Flayer boss fight did what I wanted it to do.
You didn't get to play with the Kraken, but you really got to play with your Mind Flayer
Yes.
a lot. He got
Yes.
like how many like I wasn't counting, but
Yeah.
like individual different types of attacks did he do during the fight? I feel like it must have been like 8, 9.
If you
10.
count the layer action stuff, I used all 3 of the layer action stuff I gave him. He had his bonus action, which was to command an ally to make an attack. He had his reaction, which he could deflect hits, which felt really cool.
Yeah.
And he had his Mind Blast attack, which he did at least once. He did Dominate Monster once. I don't think I actually... he has a ton of spells. I don't think I cast any of his other spells, though.
Yeah.
Because I think by the time it was available, he was almost dead. In terms of... Because you were dominated for so long. He had, like... Yeah, Phantasmal Force, Crown of Madness, Telekinesis, Confusion. Fear is the big fucking one.
That's a
Makes
game
people
changer.
drop their
If
shit
it-
and just run.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nasty. And that was on the table. Had you made had you gotten out of it early, I would have unleashed a lot more of those spells. But instead, he had the one concentration. So, and I used his tentacle attack. He does have the ability, as Mind Flayers do, when he tentacles, it forces you to make an intelligence save or you're stunned. And then on the next turn, he can just eat your brains as a super advantage attack, and it does like 1,000 damage.
Yeah.
So
wow.
he can like auto kill. It's very scary. But he can't do it in the same turn.
That would mean like we left him alone though.
Correct.
Right? Like we would like have to leave him alone.
Well, you would
for a
have
full turn.
to. Yeah, he would have to be in the same situation the next round. You'd have to separate him from his victim, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did get to use him a lot. So in other words, I'm not dissatisfied with the fight. I thought it was amazing for that reason.
Yeah.
Even though my tools were useless, everything else just balanced it out to where it was just amazingly fun. I don't know how much damage we all did to each other, but there was a lot. Like Gottwald's got 90 hit points. Savra's got 50. Twirl's got about 70. Mac, I don't see your token on the board, but you've got like 70. Oh, you're right there.
Mhm.
Yeah, 75. The Chules, like I said, each have about 100. I did cheat a little bit on the Chules. In your favor.
Mm.
Both Chules, whenever you did damage and they got down to about 10 hit points, that was just a kill. So
Okay.
at that point, the boss
was
had
a
already
time
died.
thing
It
at
was
that
falling
point, like-
action. It was
Like
pretty
the Chua
easy.
wasn't gonna do anything.
Yeah, they were already embarrassing as it was, so I kind of cheated.
I was already ready to like jump. Like the Chuas were still in the water. I was ready to jump over them and just fucking
Yeah.
just run past them with people in my arms. That
Yeah,
was my whole plan.
I didn't cheat at all with Trustkiss. He had 120 hit points straight up.
Okay.
And then the scum, when it came back, those scum have like 100 hit points, also like the Chul, and it came back with like at least half its hit points.
Oh wow.
So you guys were doing damage to it, but
Yeah.
I also don't think it hit at all when it came back.
No, I don't think so.
The minions were not great. But yeah, what were your overall thoughts on this adventure, I guess? This was the Styes. This was personally one of my favorite adventures from the Ghosts of Saltmarsh book. That we've run now 4 of the modules, I think, from it.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, I thought it was great. I liked it a lot. It was a nice mix of like sort of investigation, like a kind of mini dungeon crawl with the warehouse.
Yeah, so it had it had the very Batman Noir City, the whole murder investigation, which we had a whole session of no combat, I believe, just investigating.
Yeah.
Going to the cop lady and the mental house and all that shit. And the warehouse ended up being I love the warehouse situation. It was a big RP moment for
Yeah.
getting in, and then turned into a battle crawl, a dungeon thing, and had some cool situations there. And then led to this area, which also started off a little bit mini social and then kind of devolved into what I thought was going to be at least 2 fights, but ended up being one gigantic. Or actually, I thought it was going to be 3 fights at one point, and then it evolved into one gigantic mega fight. So just a huge boss battle. So yeah,
Which on one hand, it was probably worse for us, but on the other hand, I don't know if we would have been able to complete it all tonight if you had started us out of combat tonight.
right.
Because we would have taken the first 15, 20 minutes just like talking.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
notice,
before we actually went in the room and triggered the mind flare.
that's true, and I did notice how quickly we were going. I was actually impressed by like, oh yeah, it's only like whatever time, and we're still like we're pretty deep into this fight. But then I realized, oh, we started like immediately, not even rolling initiative. Like we were already in the middle of the fight.
Yeah.
We'd rolled initiative
Yeah.
last time, so we could jump right in there. And I mean, it still took us a little bit longer, to do. I think we stopped at like 12:30 my time or something. So
Yeah.
like close to 2.5 hours, which is a little bit long for us, but yeah, that helped getting it all done, which is why I was confident we could do it. I would still run the Kraken fight had the other fight gone quicker, and you guys again had completely kicked ass.
Yeah.
And just down to the mind flare really quickly or stun him or whatever you could do, then the Kraken would have emerged quickly, and then that would have been the real boss fight.
Yep.
But I'm glad I had those options. Cool. I think this is the last of the Ghosts of Saltmarsh content that I'll be using.
Oh, really? Nice. Okay.
I've used a little
Which
bit.
is how much? Like half the book? Third of the book?
I think it's half.
Half?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 modules. I ran 4 of them, although I pulled elements from a 5th one.
Okay. A little more than half then.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so pretty good. And then we'll be getting back to Call from the Deep main quest, which I will tell you next time. It's almost pointless to talk about it now, but on your rumors, quests and rumors sheet, it should mention visiting the town of Mintarn, I believe, for a safe port that you can meet up to perhaps get some information from.
Yeah.
And I'll just say I'll be expecting you all to do that next time.
Because
Because that
we
is
won't have much choice.
a critical element to continuing this story. Is getting some more information and context about what's going on. Yeah, we'll be doing a level up. We'll go through the loot you guys got, but I don't want to go through any of it now because we'll be gone next week, and then we'll return on the 26th for the next leg of our adventure,
Yes, indeed.
which I am also very excited about. I've had a lot of crafting in the deeps about it, and I'll have more
really?
next week to discuss it and get my shit together.
Nice.
All right, that will do it for this week's Chat from the Deep. Thank you to Chris and Raymond. Thank you to all the wonderful fans for watching. We will not see you next week. We will see you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. What's that from? 2 weeks. 2
no idea.
weeks. Come
No
on.
idea. I have no idea. What's it
2
from?
weeks. Chat, you know what I'm talking about? 2 weeks. I hope I'm doing it right.
No clue.
It's Total Recall, where he's got he's like at the airport or something, and he's got
Oh, and he's the old lady.
Yeah, he's an old lady. Like taking, and it's like freeze. Yeah, Jason got it.
Oh, is that okay? I don't remember her saying.
Yeah,
being the
like
thing.
how like they're asking questions like how long will you be staying, and they're like 2
Yeah.
weeks. So, like, are you bringing any fruits or vegetables? And he's like 2 weeks, 2
Oh,
weeks, 2
okay.
weeks. He's like fucking up. He has to take the whole head off and then like hand it to the
Right.
person. That's your reference for me.
And then
All
he
right.
shoots up an airport.